Okay. Good morning, everybody. Let me know that you can hear me okay, that you can see me okay, and we'll get going because we've got some news right now. So I'll wait for a few thumbs up and we'll get this thing going. All right. So here's the news. The news is that there will not be a third vote for Speaker for Jim Jordan. Right now, he has officially dropped his bid in the immediate moment right now for the speakership. So as of right now, there will be no vote for Jim Jordan as Speaker. What we assume will happen is there will be a vote to empower Patrick McHenry. He's the Speaker pro tempore to serve in some limited capacity or some temporary amount of time to be acting Speaker. And I think he would be empowered to move budgets or some type of continuing resolution, probably some type of foreign aid to either Ukraine and or Israel. And so that's where we're at right now. Some reporting from Jake Sherman at Punchbowl suggests that one scenario we're likely to see right now is that the vote for Patrick McHenry is introduced on the floor. It passes, that Jim Jordan can't do anything to stop it from passing. Meanwhile, Jim Jordan himself doesn't have the votes to become Speaker. So that Patrick McHenry resolution passes. Jordan doesn't have to drop out. He can continue his effort to lobby Republicans behind the scenes and whip votes behind the scenes in the event or to the point where when Patrick McHenry's temporary acting speakership runs out, Jim Jordan could then present himself yet again as an option to replace McHenry or to be a permanent speaker. So I think that because Jim Jordan doesn't have capitulation in his vocabulary, because being a member of the House Freedom Caucus teaches you one thing, that is to never surrender, to never capitulate, to never cooperate, to never give up, to always just keep throwing bombs. Because that's who Jim Jordan is, he's going to use this as a way to say, okay, you know what? I'm actually behind this. Let's empower Patrick McHenry to be the acting Speaker for 30 days or 60 days. That would allow Patrick McHenry to pass a continuing resolution or pass a budget and keep the government open, which, by the way, redounds to Jim Jordan's benefit because it ain't going to help these House Freedom Caucus members to actually keep the government open. That's the last thing they want. They want the government to be sowed in utter and complete chaos and dysfunction so they can go back to their districts and say, look, we got to shrink the government. Government doesn't work. It can't work. Look, it's closing down all the time. So that's what they want. So this would kind of help Jim Jordan in two ways, in the sense that it would help Jim Jordan and hurt Jim Jordan. It would help him in the sense that Patrick McHenry would be able to pass some type of continuing resolution or a budget to keep the government open, which, God forbid, a House Freedom Caucus member did. And it would also kind of alleviate some of this pressure right now from Jim Jordan, because we all know that Jim Jordan can't win. The flip side is that this is, to a very large degree, Jim Jordan basically conceding that he wouldn't be able to win by virtue of having Patrick McHenry be the guy, if it is the guy, by the way, and this is all just conjecture. But if it's Patrick McHenry who's the guy who ultimately gets it, that is a sign that Jim Jordan wasn't able to get it. Also a sign that Jim Jordan wasn't able to get it is the fact that we went through day one where he lost, 20 Republicans. He only had 200 votes. And on day two, he got 198, 199 votes and lost 22 Republicans. So things are very clearly moving in the wrong direction for Jim Jordan. There was no viable path forward, at least not at this very moment, for him to become Speaker. And so this is what we're left with. We're left with a situation where Jim Jordan is going to get the closest he can to conceding defeat, while still spinning this or framing this as if it's some type of a win for him. I do not expect that we will see Jim Jordan say, look, I'm not going to run for Speaker. I think that what we're going to see is him use whatever time period he has right now. If Patrick McHenry does ultimately end up being the guy who's empowered as acting Speaker for 30 or 60 or 90 days, Jim Jordan is going to use that time to continue to make his case, continue to lobby votes behind the scenes, continue to whip other Republicans who will hopefully then, as far as Jim Jordan is concerned, back his bid for speakership when this is done. We have reporting right now that Jim Jordan is going to back empowering Patrick McHenry as the Speaker pro tempore. So again, this is him basically saying, look, I'm not going to vote for someone else for Speaker. I still want that spot. I still want that position. But what I will do is give us a placeholder right now, just an interim Speaker, so that I can continue making my case and continue imposing leverage on those holdouts, those 22 Republican holdouts. Because remember, the number that he'll need at the end of the day is 217 Republicans to back him as Speaker. Right now, he has the support of like 198, and things are decidedly moving in the wrong direction. So that's where we are on the Jim Jordan of it all. Again, big news right now is that Jim Jordan we will not see a vote today for a third failed ballot for Jim Jordan as Speaker. As always, if you have any questions, you can throw them in the chat. I'll just ask quickly, if you're not yet subscribed to this channel and you want to stay on top of all of the Speaker drama as it continues to unfold, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. That is the best way to support what I do. It's the best way to support these live streams. And again, until we have a Speaker, until we have some resolution here, I'll continue live streaming this stuff on a daily basis, just like I've done on Monday and Tuesday and now today. So a lot of sleep sacrificed in service of seeing the end of this thing. So again, if you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe. Again, if you have questions, you can throw them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. If Republicans are going to vote McHenry with temporary Speaker powers, why don't they just nominate him for the actual Speaker position? I think that the House Freedom Caucus members, recognizing that right now Jim Jordan doesn't have the support, are content to give temporary powers to Patrick McHenry, knowing that he'll just be a placeholder and knowing it'll give them more time to try to flip these remaining holdouts in the Republican conference. So they don't want Patrick McHenry to be the Speaker. They want Jim Jordan or some other extremist House Freedom Caucus member to be the Speaker. But right now, they know they don't have the votes. They know they need more time. Empowering Patrick McHenry for 30 or 60 days would give them that time to continue exerting leverage over the Republican holdouts. So that's why they're not giving him, the full kit and caboodle, right? Democrats, yes, Democrats would still vote for Hakeem Jeffries. There are going to be no Democrats who vote for any Republican. There are going to be no Republicans who vote for any Democrats. Is it possible that McHenry could be the acting Speaker until the 119th Congress if we fail to get a Speaker? It seems a little probable at this point. It does seem probable at this point, considering we haven't been able to land on somebody else. And it just depends on whatever rules they pass. I mean, if they pass some type of resolution where Patrick McHenry is empowered to be the Speaker, the interim Speaker, or the acting Speaker, whatever verbiage they're going to use, for 30 days, then it's 30 days. If it's 90 days, then it's 90 days. If it's until such time as a new Speaker is able to be elected, or until the chair calls for a Speaker vote, then it's more open-ended. So again, that remains to be seen. Okay, let's see what other questions there are right now. How will the Democrats vote on this situation? Democrats probably will continue to do what they've done and vote for Hakeem Jeffries. Again, I've said this before, I'll say it now. It is not the Democrats' responsibility to save Republicans from themselves. Republicans have the majority. They campaigned for it. They ostensibly wanted it. Now they got it. It is up to them to come together, to grow up, to be adults, to coalesce around some candidate to do something, elect that person, and get to the business of governing. When Democrats had the exact same majority as the Republicans do right now, Democrats didn't need to whine about Republicans swooping in to save them. They didn't need to whine about the Republicans voting for someone else. No Republicans voted for Nancy Pelosi, by the way, and it wasn't an issue. No Democrats expected Republicans to vote for Nancy Pelosi because each party votes for their own party's Speaker candidate. That's how it's always been. That's how it'll always be. So again, it's not the Democrats' responsibility to swoop in and save Republicans. Democrats will and should unite behind their candidate, which is Hakeem Jeffries. It is up to the Republicans who campaigned for the majority, who wanted the majority, who got the majority, to figure out how to govern using that majority. Why don't they have a speaker and a vice speaker for just these kinds of issues? There shouldn't be these kinds of issues. And this has never been an issue that we need a speaker and a vice speaker. This is like, we're talking about treating these people. These are grown-ass adults. These are grown-ass adults. We shouldn't need a first alternate and a second alternate and a third alternate in the event that these people can't get their shit together. They are adults. This is the most basic part of governing in the House. This is basically like signing your name on a test. If you can't get that far, then you're probably not going to do too well on the test, right? So we shouldn't need a speaker and a vice speaker. We should just need these grown adults to figure out how to do the bare minimum when it comes to governing, and that is to elect a speaker unto themselves. Would it be worth changing the rules so that in the future a speaker stays on in a caretaker role until a new speaker is elected? That's how we do it in the UK when a prime minister loses a vote of confidence. So we actually do have this speaker pro tempore position that was newly created, I believe, in the aftermath of 9/11 for exactly this moment, wherein all of their power is basically just to facilitate the election of a new speaker. But we didn't have this before. And so Patrick McHenry's role as the speaker pro tempore is so that we can immediately have somebody who's empowered to facilitate the election of a new speaker so that we're not left without a speaker. What people didn't assume would happen is that we would be in a situation where they can't choose one. like the problem would come if something happened to the speaker, for example, in the aftermath of 9/11. This was a concern. And so they're like, okay, well, as long as we have a speaker pro tempore, then we have somebody to facilitate the election of a new speaker, not thinking that electing the speaker in and of itself would be the problem. But that's the problem when you have a party in power who is fundamentally and diametrically opposed to governing. Will the moderates gain a backbone now that Sidney Powell has pleaded guilty and that the possible testimony will show Jim Jordan's part in January 6th? I don't think Jim Jordan is going to be hauled into court regarding January 6th. I don't agree with it, but I think that if he wasn't named as a co-defendant, or if he wasn't indicted in any of these cases by now, I don't think he's going to be. Do I agree with it? No. So as of right now, people are asking if there's going to be a vote today. I do not believe we have that information right now as to whether there's going to be a vote. But I do know that Jim Jordan, again, for those who are just joining, is backing the resolution that would empower Patrick McHenry to be interim speaker or acting speaker. And we don't know how long that would last. We don't have that information right now. Again, all of this is breaking right now, but I knew that we were going to have a vote today coming up. They claimed yesterday that it was going to be noon Eastern. We're getting to noon Eastern, and this is the news that we have right now. So right now, I don't expect that we're going to have a vote. As soon as we do have a vote on this, of course, I'll do another live stream. And to make sure that you can catch that as soon as I do go live, please make sure to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but that is the best way to stay on top of when I do go live and we get to the next part of what feels like this interminable process to actually do the bare minimum when it comes to the Republicans exercising their power in the House. Just checking right now if we're going to have any news in terms of timing, and as of right now, it does not look like we have any updates on timing for today. So as soon as we have information on when that timing will be, I will let you know. I'll go live, and if you're subscribed to this channel, then you'll be notified as soon as I do go live. Again, for those asking why Jim Jordan dropped out, that reason is I think, rather evident. It's because on day one, on Monday, he needed to get 217 votes, only managed to get 200. He had 20 Republicans defecting. He could afford 4 defecting. He had 20. On Tuesday, where he had basically a full day to lobby all of those Republican holdouts behind the scenes and to whip votes, he ended up losing more Republicans than he had on day one. He lost 22. So the momentum was going decidedly in the wrong direction for Jim Jordan. There was no viable path forward for him to become speaker. Again, he needed 217 votes. I think he ended Tuesday with like 198 or 199. And so I think he didn't want the humiliation of showing that for a third day in a row, not only was he not getting enough votes for speaker, but he was actually moving in the wrong direction and was continuing to lose votes. There was reporting showing that more Republicans were prepared to move away from him. So it would have been even more of a humiliation. It would have been even more of a failure for Jim Jordan. I don't think he wanted to deal with that. If Jim Jordan isn't elected, what would stop them from doing to a new elected speaker what was done to McCarthy? It only takes one vote, so any of the extremists can take on the task. Exactly. So long as there is this rule in place where it only takes one member to introduce a motion to vacate, this can keep happening. And if they put a moderate in, or a so-called moderate, I always say the word moderate with a grain of salt, then any extremist Republican can come forward and vacate the speaker. And the flip side, if an extremist is put in, all it takes is one quote-unquote moderate to introduce a resolution or a motion to vacate the speaker. So this was a terrible rule, but it was agreed to by Kevin McCarthy for this express reason. It was a leverage point for Matt Gaetz and the other extremist Republicans to be able to dangle the prospect of removing Kevin McCarthy as speaker over his head so that he would do whatever they asked. It was a way for them to basically extort him. And he agreed to it because he came into office so desperate to become speaker that he was willing to basically cast aside any semblance of real power to be able to do that. He wanted the title. These people want power. They want that title bump. So yeah, so long as that's the rule, which, by the way, they can change the rule with a majority vote in the House, but so long as that's the rule, this can happen to anyone. Any chance for Liz Cheney to unite the House? I think in terms of Liz Cheney uniting the House, there is probably about as good a chance as me swooping in and getting the 5 required votes from Republicans. There is no way that House Republicans are going to empower Liz Cheney. There's just as high likelihood that Hakeem Jeffries would win as Liz Cheney, which is to say, ain't no chance that Liz Cheney is going to be the person. Do I think that Jim Jordan's competitive background as a coach and his never back down, defeat the other team attitude played into this? I think that Jim Jordan's background as a member of the House Freedom Caucus, whose only goal is to take hostages and to throw bombs and to never compromise, is what led to this. I mean, this is, if you want to know why Jim Jordan hadn't accepted the results of his first loss, it's because this is what you get when you empower election denialism in the Republican Party. You get people who deny the results of the election. Even now, Jim Jordan is backing this resolution to empower Patrick McHenry as a temporary speaker, but mark my words, he'll continue lobbying for himself to become the speaker if and when Patrick McHenry's tenure is up. So if this is a temporary thing for 30 days, for example, this doesn't mean it's the end of Jim Jordan's speaker run. It means he's going to use this time to continue to leverage or exert pressure on those holdouts. So this is what happens when you have somebody who can't take no for an answer, when you have somebody who the election results show one thing, the election results in this case being the speaker vote, and him feeling that a vote that didn't go in his favor is somehow, on some planet, a mandate to move forward and rule over all of these people. So that's what you get when you have somebody who doesn't traffic in reality, who is so deluded that he thinks that 2 election losses in a row means that, you know what, he's definitely still the guy and just these people need to see because they need me, they just might not know it yet. What do I say to people who say the Democrats should have abstained from the removal vote? So basically the suggestion is that Democrats should have just voted present to lower the threshold to make it easier for Kevin McCarthy to remain speaker. The Democrats have one job. They are in Congress to unite behind Hakeem Jeffries. That is their leader. It's not up to the Democrats to swoop in and save Kevin McCarthy, especially when Kevin McCarthy has not been a good faith partner to those Democrats. So the idea that Democrats should do anything, any procedural move, anything to come and rescue Kevin McCarthy, who was not a good partner to Democrats, who made no assurances. And people are going to say, oh, yeah, but he kept the government open. That's the bare minimum that he should be doing. Keeping the government open is not an excuse to give him a trophy. It's the bare minimum. Imagine you were an employee and your job was to work for the day, and you instead walked outside and stuck a close sign on the front door and said the store is closed, and you're like, all right, well, I'll open it. Aren't I a great employee now? I'll deign to allow the store to be open. That's not cause for celebration. That's cause to maybe not be fired at a bare minimum. Maybe not be fired on the spot. But like, we shouldn't applaud these people for doing the bare minimum, which is to like keep the government open. Which, by the way, every government shutdown of my lifetime in the last more than 30 years, the last 6 government shutdowns have all taken place at the hands of a Republican House majority. So this is a recurring theme for them. This is what they're trying to show. They're trying to show that government can't work, and so you have to shrink it. You have to eliminate the FBI, the DOJ, the Department of Education, the EPA, over and over and over again. We see these Republicans saying you have to eliminate government. What they're looking for is to eliminate regulation and eliminate taxes and just basically allow all their rich donors to keep every cent and not spend any money on any poor people or any services that would benefit poor people. Every ounce of the government's attention and focus should be on helping the ultra wealthy, because those are the people who fund their campaigns. So their goal right now is to just shrink every facet of government and to point to the dysfunction that they cause as a predicate to be able to then cut down the size of government. Of course, government can work when you have people who believe in its fundamental mission, which is to help people. I mean, when Democrats had the exact same size majority as Republicans have right now, not only could they accomplish the Herculean task of electing a speaker, but they also were able to pass the American Rescue Plan, the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS Act, the PACT Act, the Infrastructure Law, the Bipartisan Gun Package, reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act, codify marriage equality into federal law. They were able to oversee the addition of 14 million jobs, or by that point it was somewhere just around 12 or 13 million jobs, and bring the unemployment rate down to a 50-year low. So government can work when you have people who are working to make it work. But when you have people who are looking to destroy it, that's what will happen, and that's what we're seeing right now. The problem for Republicans is that we just got done with a Democratic majority who was able to show that when you have people who believe in its mission, that it can actually function, and it can function well. And you can bring down the cost of healthcare, and you can make the tax code fair and cut down on those wealthy tax cheats not paying their taxes, and you can bring down the cost of insulin. You can dedicate funding to combat climate change. You can give veterans healthcare. You can bring renewable energy and clean energy and chips and EV batteries manufacturing back into the United States. That leads to 800,000 jobs being added in manufacturing. You can do all of these things when you actually believe in the fundamental mission of government. And so that's the problem for these Republicans who are trying to make the case right now that government can't work, is because we just saw it work 2 years ago. The difference is we had competent people running the government versus, the Marjorie Taylor Greene caucus, the Jim Jordan caucus, whose only goal is to scream Hunter Biden enough times that it takes to actually get on Newsmax and then just shut the thing down for the day. That's the difference. If we get someone way worse in the speaker position like Donald Trump, wouldn't the Democrats hold some responsibility? I think, again, it is not the Democrats' responsibility to figure out what the Republicans do with their majority. If they want to put the biggest bomb thrower, the worst person, if they want to put Donald Trump himself in the speaker position, Republicans have the majority to be able to do that. That's on them. But they own the political fallout of being able to do that. And God knows that if Donald Trump is sitting in a courtroom like he is in New York yesterday and probably tomorrow. Right now he's in his Doral golf course. But if you have someone like Donald Trump in the speakership position, that chaos and pandemonium that's going to ensue from that is going to be on them. They own that. So again, yes, you'll have dangerous people, but remember, we have checks. We have a Senate that's Democratic, meaning there will be no legislation passed. Yes, the government would probably shut down if someone like Donald Trump or Jim Jordan was speaker, but they own the fallout from that. I mean, you can only do what you can do. Republicans have the majority. So we can make our case, which is what I try to do on a daily basis, as to why we should put the adults in charge. But at the end of the day, Republicans do have the majority. What's stopping the crazies from taking power, the full-blown crazies like Jim Jordan, is that there are a few Republicans who recognize the political liability that would come from having someone like Jim Jordan be their leader, or from having someone like Donald Trump be their leader. There are currently 18 Republicans sitting in districts that Joe Biden won. These people are under a ton of pressure not to capitulate to the crazies. And yet the majority of them have, by the way. But there are a few who haven't, because they recognize that if they want to keep their jobs, then casting a vote for Jim Jordan, casting a vote for Donald Trump for speaker isn't going to help them. And it's going to be the only thing that plays on an ad in their district over and over and over again from now until November 2024. So there are checks in place that would prevent just full-blown mayhem, full-blown chaos from happening. Let's see if we have any updates in the meantime. On when we might see it. Okay, we have news here. Round 3 of the speaker vote will not happen today. Again, will not happen today. So we were supposed to have round 3 where Jim Jordan, again, was going to be vying for his spot as speaker. That vote will not happen today. Jim Jordan, for those just joining, will instead focus on or back a plan to empower Patrick McHenry as a temporary speaker. We don't know how many days that would be for. I guess that would be part of whatever, the agreement is. Maybe it's 30 days, maybe 60. I presume it'll be enough days so that Patrick McHenry will be able to pass some type of either a continuing resolution or a budget and keep the government open. And that actually does redound to Jim Jordan's benefit, because the last thing Jim Jordan would want to be caught doing is governing or keeping the government open. That's not good for his far-right extremist bona fides. You definitely don't want to do that. Last thing you want to do as a House Freedom Caucus member is commit the crime of keeping the government open. So this would allow him to A, empower someone else to keep the government open. B, it would buy him more time to continue lobbying other Republicans behind the scenes to eventually come around and back his bid for speaker. So we'll see when that resolution or resolution motion to empower Patrick McHenry will come to the floor. It does not look like, according to the reporting, it'll happen today. So that's where we're at right now for those just joining. As soon as we do know when we will have a vote for that resolution to empower Patrick McHenry, or, by the way, it could be something else. This is just the reporting right now, so we could have another Republican candidate move forward. But I think as of right now, all signs are pointing to a resolution empowering the Speaker pro tempore, Patrick McHenry, currently serving as Speaker pro tempore, to be acting Speaker in some capacity. As soon as we have any news on when that resolution will come forward, I'll make sure to live stream it. So if you're not subscribed to this channel, make sure to subscribe. You can hit the bell. I believe either way, you'll get a notification as soon as I go live. So very important that you subscribe to this channel. Not only because it's just a great way to support what I do, and I appreciate it, but so that we can continue seeing this thing through until the end. You'll also get access to the rest of my content, which is my daily breaking news videos. I do a legal series with Glenn Kirshner where we discuss all of the prosecutions happening right now from a legal perspective. He's been a federal prosecutor for 30 years. I do a voting rights series with Mark Elias. He's the nation's top voting rights attorney. So we talk about all of the changes in the maps that we're seeing right now and the major impact that it's having on the 2024 races, and as well as my interviews. Just last week, I interviewed AOC and I interviewed President Biden, and on and on. So if you want to stay on top of all of that stuff, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. In the meantime, I'll take questions for a couple more minutes, and then we'll call it a day for right now. So if you do have questions, just throw them in the chat. Again, you do need to be subscribed to participate in the chat. So hit the subscribe button, throw your question in the chat, and I'll do my best to quickly answer your questions. Here we go. Patrick will or won't be a second backup for president? That is a great question. I don't believe that an acting speaker or a speaker pro temp is second in the line of succession in the same way that a speaker is. So as of right now, I believe that I'm 99.9% sure, especially with the speaker pro tempore, that it goes president, vice president, and then president of the Senate, which the president of the Senate right now is Patty Murray. She's a Democrat from Washington. So because there's no speaker or permanent speaker, which is outlined in the Constitution, there is no constitutional mechanism in the line of succession for a speaker pro tempore or an acting speaker. So it would just be president, vice president, president, vice president, president of the Senate, Patty Murray, Democrat. Well, this is a very important question. What did I have for breakfast? I haven't eaten breakfast in 3 days because I've been live streaming this. My breakfast has been the failures of Jim Jordan. That's what I've been consuming for the last 3 days, watching Jim Jordan fail. Which, by the way, is more satisfying than you think. What do let's see. Did Jim Jordan completely pull out? That's what I just read on Twitter. No, Jim Jordan didn't completely pull out. He's backing this resolution right now to empower Patrick McHenry as the acting speaker, the interim speaker, for some amount of time that we don't know yet. But what I presume he will do, there has been no indication that he's going to pull out completely, that he's done. He's probably going to use this time to continue vying for the speakership behind the scenes for the event that Patrick McHenry's interim speakership completes. What are your thoughts on RFK Jr. in the election? I think that RFK Jr. has spent a lot of time presenting his conservative bona fides to Republicans to the point where he didn't even see a viable path forward as a Democrat and even conceded that he'll likely take away more votes from Donald Trump. Here's the thing. When your audience is like Elon's fans and conservative podcasts and Fox News and Donald Trump, and you spend all of this time being propped up by those people, all because those people thought you would be a foe for Joe Biden, but you've garnered all this support among those people, then guess what's going to happen? Eventually, you're not going to recognize that there is no viable path forward as a Democrat, and you are going to continue appealing to those very people. So I think they kind of stepped in it on the right by trying to prop up RFK Jr. as a spoiler because now they're stuck with him. Is this a loss for Jim Jordan? I would call this a loss in the sense that it was not a win. It's not him capitulating. It's not him giving up completely, but I don't see a viable path forward for Jim Jordan. I have a sneaking suspicion that all these death threats may have the effect of convincing one or two Republicans to vote for Jeffries. That is, I mean, look, that's a possibility. Republicans have been enduring death threats for not voting for Jim Jordan. Ken Buck's wife, I believe, has had people text her and threaten her. Representative Miller Meeks, has also had people send her death threats, all because she didn't capitulate to the extremist that was Jim Jordan. So look, that's not going to garner any sympathy. Will it have the effect of pushing any of them to vote for Hakeem Jeffries? Unlikely, but it certainly isn't going to get them to support Jim Jordan, and we're seeing that right now. Is there supposed to be another vote today? All reporting indicates that there is not supposed to be another vote today. But again, as soon as we have any information as to when the next vote will be, then I will let you know. So right now, the House will be gavelled in, and they'll immediately recess. I think that's about to happen in the next few minutes. So it's just like a procedural move where they have to gavel in and then adjourn for the day. So if you see any reporting right now that the House is going to be gavelled into session by Patrick McHenry, they're just going to gavel it into session. Probably 1 or 2 minutes will pass, and then the House will go into recess. So again, I don't know if they're going to adjourn for the full day. They probably will. I think once we have confirmation that enough people will vote for this resolution empowering Patrick McHenry to be the permanent acting speaker, then they'll have that vote, but I don't know if they have those votes right now. So again, as soon as we have any indication of when that will be, I'll go live. So with that said, I'll call it there for anybody who wants to stay on top of this stuff, and I will continue to go live as soon as we have any new news. Please make sure to subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. Best way to follow along with all of my work, but especially these live streams, so that we can see this speaker mayhem out to its dirty conclusion, however long that's going to take. So thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And again, as soon as we have any news, I'll let you know. So until next time, talk to you soon.